Rocky, Jay-Z, cause these niggas jockin'. Christian Dior on my body, this is not no Abercrombie. I pull up in Ferragamo, all this paper, not for copies. And I'm ballin' like I'm Lonzo, need my money, ASAP Rocky. All these bosses on the logo, I'm a G, call me Polo money, making logo, no show crazy like a fucking logo. We do not fuck with 12, no, we don't really like the popo. Shorty, dummy, off the cocoa, dancing on me like a go-go. And I'm really off the shits, niggas ain't going as hard as this. Really they think that they lit, but really in real life them niggas is opposite. Really my pockets is bottomless, I stop to watch, I stop the wrist. Hating niggas don't exist, go get you some money, I'm tryna get rich. Shorty poppin' like a pogo, go pro, drop it slow-mo. Shorty want me solo, dolo, photogenic, please no.
What's going on YouTube? It's your man once again, man. Hey, listen, I just got back from Florida, so I'm a little burnt and I'm feeling a little bit under the weather because I caught a little bit of COVID on the way. But hey, it is what it is. I kept listening to a lot of the comments that were going on in the Facebook and the chats about the GS300 control arms and some of the questions that had came up. So I wanted to take some time to address some of those things. And we're not going to do anything in the garage. We're just going to work inside, and hopefully I can debunk some of these myths about the GS300 control arms in the IS300. So we're just going to change the camera real quick, and as you can see in the back, I already got some of the stuff laid out, so we're going to be talking bushings. All right, so here we go. All right, ladies and gents, as you see here, we have a lot of bushings laid out, and I know a lot of the guys in the comments were asking specifically about Strongflex, which is a awesome manufacturer for these bushings, but I want to take you through how we got to this point. So originally, we went ahead and we went with the Flowflex brand of bushing. Now, the Flowflex brand of bushing, it's a decent bushing, but unbeknownst to me, the actual poly material made for these bushings is only 80 grade. So 80 is pretty good, but when you compare, and they're also not made with a steel pin in the center of it. It's an aluminum type of pin that goes in the center, so there's less poly material around the pin than there is on, for example, a Strongflex. There's a lot more poly material around the Strongflex, and it also uses a steel pin. Both of them are both two-part bushings, which come apart in the center. So what I wanted to talk about is this right here. So these in front of you here are aftermarket GS300 control arms, upper rear control arms. Now, the difference between the upper rear control arms from the OEM and and the aftermarket is that there always has to be a little bit of difference between the manufactured and the OE, right? And it could be small little details. It could be like maybe the way that this casted right here, you know, or maybe the way that this is angled, you know, could be slightly different. The casting can be slightly different. The hole might be slightly bigger, you know, so it'll be at least a 10% different, right? So there's no copy infringements, right? So the difference between these arms is gonna be right here. So when I originally ordered, well, let's step back. When I originally ordered the Flowflex bushings for these, I was having a lot of trouble with fitment and I couldn't figure out what was going on. So the Flowflex come with a aluminum washer on the outside. Is like a wear preventer. It prevents like the outer portion of the bushing wearing prematurely, which is cool. I think it's pretty cool. Um, so that's actually the one of the biggest decisions where I went with them. But then after purchasing it, I learned that the bushing material is not quite as strong as the manufacturer, or just as strong as the manufacturer. So these arms actually come with a 80 grade bushing, rubber bushing, already from the manufacturer. Excuse me. This here is the present type bushing, rubber bushing that comes in this arm. Now, the ones that go on this side, which is the larger, is a two-piece but rubber bushing. One gets pressed in one side and one gets pressed in the other side. And that's how they are manufactured. I'm gonna load in a clip of how they look in just a second. All right. Next thing that's getting replaced is from these GS300 upper rear control arms. Is I'm going to remove the bushings, because if you look, even though they might seem pretty stiff at first, these bushings are actually not really that strong. And this is just with my hand doing this little flexing. Imagine with actual load how much they flex. So these bad boys is getting replaced. And this side here, they use this here. Now this is a steel case rubber bushing. This is a very, very strong bushing right off the bat. So to be honest with you, you probably would never need to replace these for polys, but I decided that I wanted to take on the task to go ahead and replace them. So what ends up happening is that the casting on these parts are much more narrow than they are on the Toyota brand part. So as you see, this part has a poly bushing already installed, and you can see how much the poly bushing is sticking out of both sides. So this bushing is not a good fit. It's way too big, and this will fail prematurely. Now, the key to it is that when I didn't notice this at first, because I was never thinking it was going to be a problem, but if you look at the size of the steel barrel, this steel barrel that it uses against the casting itself, it's actually larger. So the aftermarket manufacturer, what they do is that they press this bad boy in there, and then it protrudes slightly out on both ends. And that's not a problem for them, because this is steel, so it has its own rigidity. It doesn't really rely on the arm itself to hold it together. But when you swap over to a poly bushing, the poly bushings do rely on the structure of the arm itself, of the barrel of this flange right here, to create that structure, right? So that's what you guys need to keep in mind when you swap over. Now, as far as Strongflex is concerned, they don't sell a poly bushing off the shelf that's going to be a direct replacement for an aftermarket arm. So you will need to contact them directly in order to get this bushing right here. Now, if you see the difference of how that fits, it's the same exact bushing. Here, this arm is actually upside down. Flip it around. All right. So I wanted to bring you guys attention to this here, so you guys can see side to side comparison of what it looks like. the new and improved Polybush Strongflex. So, as you see from the side view, it covers a lot more of the casting material. It's a much better design, in my opinion. Now, I'm gonna bring you over here, and this is where you're gonna see the differences between the Flowflex and the Strongflex. The Flowflex has less material on the outer portion of the bushing itself. So against the flange, there's less material to support it from side load. Because this right here is what's gonna push against the flange on the subframe. So this will have more flexing, side to side flex, because the difference in how they, I don't know if they cast it or mold it or however they mold these things, but regardless, this piece here, as you see, is much larger. We have a much larger area on this right here. Also, I want to show you this. Remember what I had said? The steel pin in this is also zinc coated, so it's resistant to corrosion. And again, I'm not really knocking the Flowflex brand. I definitely don't want to seem like I'm knocking the company, but I do have to bring this to the attention of the community, that they're using a raw aluminum machined, looks like a pin here. So this aluminum pin with a steel bolt is, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you don't put anti-seize inside this pin, you ain't never getting that pin out of there. You're gonna end up having to cut it, because as we know, water and aluminum does not mix. It oxidizes, and you're gonna have some issues. So here is the side. As you see, I'm putting pressure on it, and I think I had mentioned that it was 80 grade, but actually I think it's more along the lines of 60 grade poly urethane. Now this one here, this is 90. Now you can see the difference of, like, I put everything into trying to like crush this thing, and it's super strong. So there you go. There's a side-by-side comparison of both bushings. So you guys make the choice. I'll leave it up to you. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add the description of all the measurements that you will need when you call up Strongflex, and you would just give them, send them an email and I will provide you with all the measurements needed, and they will get you the right poly bushing that you need. All right, guys. So there you have it.
I won't change it for no paper, no. I won't change it for no hater, no. I stay true, I see him playing both sides. Both sides, don't play with me.